Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Today I have Subha with me. She is the compliance head of world's fastest growing Indian origin Web3 unicorn. Subha has an extensive experience in when it comes to legal domain. She has worked with tens and multiple companies and multiple lawyers in the field. She also worked with Polygon before this, where she got laid off due to adverse market situation, and I'm so grateful that she was so open to share all her journey, her learning, her experiences. So do watch this episode till the very end, where we have an interesting discussion about blockchain and the legal side of things, how the regulations should pan out, where is the positioning of India in this entire global financial revolution. So hit the like button and let's get started. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's so great to hear that finally you have got a job in Web3 again. And let's start with this. Let's start with a more serious topic, I would say. So last time we were having a discussion, you were laid off from one of the largest Web3 companies ever, which was kind of your dream to get into, and it's a dream of so many people. And the market situation was such that people got laid off. So why did you stay in Web3 after all this? Let's start with that. Sorry for the serious topic to start with, but
No, I think it's very apt. I think the first thing that went through my head, so I'm a complete dreamer, okay? I tend to go from 0 to 100 very quickly. I dream on very quickly. So the moment I came on board Polygon, I stayed with Polygon 6 months, but the moment I came on board, I had huge dreams, huge dreams. And in those 6 months, they only became bigger. And being laid off, it wasn't even like, we're laying you off next month. Yeah, this is your 2 months notice. It was, we're laying you off effective tomorrow. So the first thing that you feel is, in a way, I would say betrayal. Even though the company doesn't owe me anything, but you do feel betrayed in that sense that you I had been working diligently. I had been going beyond. Above, and I felt like my performance was very good. My work was good. I was helping the company. I was adding on to the company's profits, and that suddenly being told that effective tomorrow you're going to be laid off, it was a shock. The first time I got, and especially because we were given personal assurances that such a situation will not arise. And I had complete, even from day one. So Polygon suffered regulatory issues since day one, and a lot of my colleagues left the company early, and dropped hints that you should also, there's something going on, and you should also leave, and you should do this, and you should do that. Uh, but I stuck on. I From day one I had a lot of faith in Polygon, and I was always like 100% ki whatever the company is doing, aisa kuch nahi hai. They're not going to do anything. They're going to be smart about it. In fact, I know one of my colleagues. He's going to get married at the end of this year or beginning next year. So I talked to him and I said, I'm hearing these rumors. What do you make of them? And he was like, Subha, I'm getting married. If there was something that the company was going to, if they were going to lay off or something, I would be the first person to quit. So have faith. And I know people who had faith who rejected offers to stay on with the company, and then being laid off makes you feel like all of a sudden, okay, what do I do now? Where do I go? I had so much security, and then just a few hours ago, I was so secure, and suddenly I'm not. So you do feel taken aback. But the biggest thing here was that fortunately, it being my first job, and this is, I will tell you, it is a huge privilege in my life that I belong to a family where my family was able to support me. I was not relying on Polygon to support me, because otherwise, if maybe this had happened later in life, I would have been a lot more stressed. At this time, it was just about a career choice and not the money.
there were thousands and lakhs of people laid off during that time. So a lot of them would have a successful career, they would have children, they would have family to take care of, and it definitely feels a betrayal, maybe because you are being punished for the things which you did not do, crimes you did not commit.
Exactly,
The market
exactly.
did.
No, absolutely. In fact, okay, my laying off issue was a little different, but at that time there was this great layoff going. A lot of consensus has laid off people. CoinSwitch was laying off people. Even I think Facebook had laid off a couple of people. A lot of companies put hiring freezes. And I'll tell you what. In fact, the moment at least some of these companies, uh, the moment they were laying off 100 of employees, they had job vacancies at the same time. They were posting about job vacancies. So I feel like now that we're talking about it, for some companies, I feel like there needs to be something that regulates layoffs in general, because you can't just lay off because right now my budget is, at this moment, whatever I promised is not realizing.
There is a
But
notice period,
at least,
right?
See, when you that's the thing. Your notice period. If you look at an employment contract, usually and coming from a lawyer, your employment contract is such that you have to give the company a notice period, but the company may fire you at any time for unsatisfactory performance. That is how the agreements are usually structured. And
But
when
the
it comes to the
performance was not unsatisfactory. Sorry, I'm cutting you a lot in between, but
no, no, no. Of course, definitely not. But that's the thing. If your company gives you a notice, that your company gives you in writing that we're laying you off, what are you going to do about it? Your only recourse is a long, lengthy battle. And especially when it comes to Web3 companies, most of them are located overseas. You are working remotely. What do? You'll go to your local court and sue them there. I mean, what is your recourse here? If a company, even if your agreement specifically states that you are entitled to ABC benefits and you have to be given a notice period, you're absolutely right here. But if your job is rescinded, your letters are rescinded, if your offer is rescinded, what recourse do you have? And what is you against a multi-million dollar internationally located company with a team of lawyers? What are you going to do about it? That's the thing. And a lot of people did bring up this issue how companies like CoinSwitch and Consensus, while they had laid off 100 employees, they had 100 vacancies open on their websites. And they were actively recruiting at that same time.
for
So
the
if on
same
the one
profile, for the same profile.
for similar profiles, yes, for similar profiles. In fact, I remember reading a woman had specifically posted this that yesterday my friend was laid off from this profile, and today I check out their website and their recruiters approaching me that particular company is hiring in that profile. You know why they're doing it? Because laying off experience, you've been with the company 5 years, your package is probably 50 LPA or 60 LPA. If I lay you off and then I get a fresh recruit, I'll recruit him in 10. I'll recruit him in 5. I'll recruit him at a lower budget. So to me, as company, it gives me a huge monetary benefit. Laying off employees and then just hiring en masse younger, newer employees at a cheaper rate. Maybe from I'll lay off 10 American employees and hire 50 Indian employees. I have to pay them less salary. So as a company, it's benefiting me a lot. But for those people, it's not. And this is the ground reality. This is what companies are doing because there's no regulation who's going to stop them from doing it.
So that is one of the reasons why, to cut down the cost, your hypothesis is this is why they do this.
I'm not saying this is what Polygon did, of course.
No, no,
Polygon's
no. In
layoff
general,
thesis
it's
but yes, in general, that is what a lot of companies are doing, especially MNCs and especially companies that have the power to hire overseas. That is what they're doing. They're laying off en masse and then they're hiring people at a lesser wage from maybe other countries with maybe a little bit less experience. But they're doing that. They're definitely doing that.
so.
They don't shut down their operations.
So Subha, then again, can you tell us what you are currently doing? Your little bit of your background, what you are currently doing, and your field of expertise.
So as of now, I'm working as the compliance officer for Fire, that is India's 105th unicorn. We just hit $1 billion
Fire chain.
valuation. Yes, Fire Chain. We hit $1 billion valuation last month, I think, and we're expanding rapidly. And there are a lot of things that. So those are the thing with Web3 companies. I mean, if you look at other companies, there are companies. I I think Plume Technologies, and there are other companies that have been in business for upwards of 30 years and they are hitting unicorn valuation now. So, traditionally companies take a while, businesses take a
Uh,
while to hit that $1 billion valuation. But with tech and Web3,
Tech.
valuations are being hit super, super fast.
Yeah,
So we are barely 11 months old.
there was a company, I don't want to take the name, but there was a company which became $1 billion in 6 months, and that was
That's
kind of a record.
precisely what I'm saying.
But that's
Yeah,
the general phenomena of Web 2 as well as Web 3, not just
no,
Web 3, right?
see, today with the, I would say hype is the wrong word because hype sounds like it's a negative thing and it's just for nothing. But the prevalence or the attention that Web3, crypto, blockchain, these terms and the businesses associated with these are getting, the result is that these companies, tech companies in today's age are skyrocketing very quickly. Like if you're hitting $1 billion valuation in 6 months, in 11 months, it means that you've barely had time to build a proper company, build a proper system, build a proper, inner schematics, inner workings, inner hierarchy of people in inner workings before you've reached a valuation where you have just so much money. And it leaves a lot of room for, things to go wrong. You have the money and you can spend a lot, you've got funds coming in, but right now you see, you would say you've been doing podcasts for how long now? um,
7, 8 months.
7 8 months. Your first podcast is not the same as the podcast you're doing with me today. You've learned a lot over this time. So there's some things that you learn with time. There's some things that you figure out, okay, this is a new problem that I have to tackle, this is a new problem that you have to tackle. So with Web3, companies are growing way faster than they are catching up to that growth. There are young founders, young entrepreneurs, young workforce, and I would admit myself that I there are a lot of things that every day I'm thinking, okay, this is a new issue that needs to be tackled. This is a new compliance thing that needs to be done. So with Web3, that is the whole issue, that growth is exponential and everything else needs to catch on now, especially when it comes to compliance. Because law is behind you. Law is looking to just grab you at some point. Some regulator is going to come after you. And I had a meeting with young founder.
We will definitely come to that, but let's take a step back and go back to where you were telling us about yourself, about the history.
Right.
Yeah, let's get that done, and then this young founder
Right.
discussion, I'll note it down somewhere.
Of course. Okay. So as of now, I'm working as compliance officer for Fire Chain. I am the first legal sort of person on board, and it's my job to build the entire legal system. Just ensuring that everything that the company does meets legal regulations, be it content, be it whatever, marketing, your logo, your trademarks, thousands of things goes behind that. So that is what I'm doing as of now, and I am continuing my research on DAOs and Web3. I'll always be happy to work on DAOs. That is a phenomena that is, very interesting for somebody with a legal background, because it goes against everything. Web3 in general goes against every established legal precedence. It's going to be interesting to see how both of them evolve. I don't know if you're aware, but Indonesia is coming up with a government and government regularized cryptocurrency exchange.
I'm not aware of that one, but we'll discuss on Indonesia and DAO as well. How would you describe your experience as a legal professional? It's not just years, which I think, it's also the diversity of experiences which you have collected over the years, the number of companies which you have worked on, and things like that add up to the things. So in Web3, no one has 30 years of experience, right? But that doesn't matter. So yeah.
In terms of my experience, I feel like I swing between an imposter complex and a superiority complex. Like sometimes I wonder, oh my God, there are people doing so much. There are people with so much experience, people who founded organizations, and look at me, what am I doing? And sometimes when I look back on the 20 plus wala experience number on my LinkedIn, then I feel like, okay, I've also done quite a bit. That's enough. That's okay. That pace is fine. So I do have a lot of diversity. When it comes to diversity, I feel like my background is very, very diverse, and it comes from indecisiveness. Because at first I wanted to do something else, then I wanted to do something else, then I wanted to do something else, and finally I landed here. So I worked with some of India's best criminal lawyers. I have been At that time, my dreams were to be the hotshot criminal defense attorneys, for the white collar, the rich people who commit crimes. So I worked with there. Then I wanted to work in, my goal was completely conventional law focused. I wanted to go into litigations, your tariq pe tariq wala lawyer, completely that. And lockdown happened. I had an internship lined up with a very good legal corporate firm, because I was thinking, ki, yeah, theek hai, maybe white collar crime does not have that much money as I had thought. So maybe I should explore corporate as well. Then lockdown happened, and yeah, everything shut down. My internship was no longer valid. The firm I was going to intern with temporarily shut down its offices, and so for a while it was like, lockdown was a lot of pressure, of course, because at the same time where you were just sitting at home, you also had a lot of time. So should I be doing something with my time, or should I just be wasting it, taking time to myself, whatever? But coincidentally, I entered into the startup.
Let's call it self care. Let's not call it wasting
Let's
time.
call 18-hour naps self care.
Okay.
So yeah, then I stumbled upon the start. So initially, I wanted to make money. I thought maybe I would do some side gigs and just see where the money was at, because law has no money. I'll tell you, in India, conventional
Law
litigation has
has
no money.
tons of money concentrated in couple of people.
Law has money once you have white hair and you spend 20, 30 years in the industry, then you can start, "Acha, theek hai, now I need," see, that is a completely different thing. But at least in the beginning, law has no money. So I thought, maybe I'm in college, I should be doing so many more things. I should be involved in organizations. And I became involved with Trell. And that was a very, very good collaboration. In fact, I was asked by them to possibly even come to Bangalore and pursue a full-time position. But I wanted to, of course, complete my studies. As tempted as I was, I wanted to complete my studies. And that is when I realized that working with a startup or working with a company was much more enjoyable for me than working at a law office or law firm. That's not to say I still continued working with a lot of lawyers. And then during lockdown, when everything shut, it was just all of a sudden it was just startups. All you could hear everywhere around was just startups. And I jumped on. I mean, I came on board. I joined Detoxy. I joined Woovly. It was just a very quick succession, and coincidentally, it was all through contacts that reached out to me from previous workplaces. And yeah, I ended up working in a very diverse sphere, in conventional law offices, law firms, in litigation, in corporate, as well as startups. And I worked with two beauty organizations also. That's where my heart goes because I feel like there's say free ka, you'll get free products. I work with two beauty organizations also, and I continue to even now. I am kind of associated with this organization for feminine products and hygiene. And yeah, then Web3 happened. I did not know what. I mean, crypto and Web3 was something that tech people did, but not something Subha would do. And then Polygon happened, and then I was like, oh my god, this is something Subha can do. This is something Subha is good at. And then
After
I
doing
just
so much,
decided
you
to
say you
stick with
can't
Web3.
do something. How is that possible?
I told you that swing between. I
Just
am the
just
kind
for
of
the audience, she have you graduated from the college? Is your studies?
yes, I have
Yeah, she
graduated
just
last month.
graduated. She just graduated. She has already done 20 other jobs and whatnot. So and in just graduated and leading a unicorn in their legal compliance thing. That's like
So much pressure. That is so much pressure. That is so much pressure too. It's just little me. I'm just 5 feet small.
But how's the experience? How's the? I know you have just started, and how's the experience? Why did you stay in Web3 after this incident happened? Like Web3 rejected you, or at least in one way or the other, one of the biggest companies, and such a betrayal. Even after that, what did you like about Web3 that you stayed?
It wasn't just Polygon that rejected me. After Polygon, I applied for jobs like crazy, and I got a rejection, like not even just an ignore, but a proper rejection letter from each and every one of them. Like, we're sorry to inform. In spite of going extra lengths, like getting referrals, talking to people in the company, and having them refer my name, I got rejections. Uh, my primary the honest answer is that I did not want to work in a traditional law firm or a law office. I The last in office internship, like the last in office work I had done was in November. And even though the office is good, the work was great. I learned a lot. I used to cry going there and I used to cry coming back because it just wasn't for me. I am not the kind of person who can sit in a conventional office, be there, present ma'am at 9 a.m., stay there till 8 p.m., just be there, show your face. I'm just not that kind of a person. That was one.
All the
The other,
revolutionaries are in Web3 now.
yeah, the other part was that I am somebody who really wants to be appreciated for, like, I feel like I am somebody who can do something better than what the average person can. And when it comes to Web3, you need people who are quick at thinking, who quick on their feet, who can, not just people who have experience, but people who can put their mind into coming up with new solutions. This sounds very cliche, but people who can think out of the box. And I felt like Web3 was the arena, maybe if not today, then tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then 6 months down the line. But that is the industry that is going to value my skills, and that is the industry that is going to challenge me for who I am. So I decided to stick with Web3, and I heard a lot of my friends are working in top tier law firms. My parents, one of my family relatives is a very high profile lawyer. I mean, he's got a good office. He's a good lawyer, and my family did initially push me for that. But even after being rejected by Polygon, even after so many rejection letters, the one thing I had in my mind was no matter what I'll do, it'll be Web3, it'll be crypto, it'll be blockchain. That is the industry that is for me.
Wagmi.
Yes.
And so, tell us how did you come across Firechain? Why Firechain? How did you apply? How did you got into this? What was the process like? Very curious to know this.
My day while looking for a job, my day would sort of swing between LinkedIn job alerts and looking up young Web3 setups and startups and companies. What I had the conclusion that I had come up to was that I was not getting selected in companies and organizations that were entirely based outside of India. People who had no Indian workforce. I was not finding a lot of success there. Maybe because they wanted to keep their workforce concentrated to the America, to Europe. I don't know. But I just had that inclination that maybe something closer to home might be better for now, given my experience, given that I did not have 10 years of experience on my resume. I did not have, a lot of people, of course, if your company is based out of the US, you would want somebody who can practice in the US or who can practice in the UK to be your legal counsel. So I wanted to go for something closer to home. By that time, June, I got laid off. July, Fire was in the news for being the youngest ever, the youngest, the newest yeah, India's newest startup and unicorn, and one of the fastest organizations to hit $1 billion valuation. As I said, it was in less than 11 months. So of course, I just Fire was on the top of my list. I did have an offer from another Web3 organization, and they very frankly told me that they are not a unicorn and they will not be offering me much above standard industry standards in terms of salary. And they had a more conventional work setup. They had an office. They wanted people to, come at 9, come at 10, stay there till whatever. So that was my clue that I need to look for organizations that are at least
In
unicorns or
Web3, you are talking this company.
yeah, I mean, see, even if you
Okay.
are in Web3, if you are led by people, or if your workforce is composed of conventional people or who want to work in a conventional setup, that's how it's going to
Yeah,
function,
that makes
right?
sense. Yeah.
So yeah, so I was a little hesitant there. As I said, I wanted to work in something new, something different, and Fire was on my list. A couple of other companies were on my list. I had a chat with a lot of founders. I used to directly hit up people on LinkedIn. With Fire, I think at the time they came into news. There were 80 people. I remember there were 88 people on LinkedIn working for them, out of which there were about 20 to 30 people who were legitimately, like, they had legitimate accounts and they were active on LinkedIn, and the others were probably just I don't know, ex members or fake profiles or whatever, the spam profiles that you can tell. So I sent a LinkedIn message to all 20 or 30 people introducing myself and just mentioning my desire to work with the company. I think everybody that I've talked to now since being employed with the company, they were like, "Yeah, I think I did see your message on LinkedIn. Yes, I remember you." So I
That's a
reached
very
out to
different strategy from what people do. People generally don't make conflicts while applying. Like they message one person or two-person, not everyone. But that's a really good way to. I am not saying for people who are watching that ki, whatever company you want to apply, just spam all the employees. But
yeah,
that's a really innovative
it
thing.
can backfire. Yes,
It
people
can
can get
backfire.
annoyed as well. But that see it was for me it was that you're at the top of my list. Half of whatever LinkedIn messages you're sending out to me, this is going to be maybe one or two people out of 10 or 20 who are going to see and who are going to respond. So I sent a LinkedIn message to everybody from Fire. I even got a response, but I even messaged the CEOs and I got a response back. To their credit, they actually did respond and they encouraged me to send my CV across. But of course, they were not, free enough to follow up or keep my application in mind. They have 100 things going on. And then finally, the COO of the company, Rahul Rotela, he saw my message. He responded a couple of days later, and we scheduled a meeting. We scheduled this way, like tomorrow, no, okay, day after. I'm not free today. With a couple of follow-ups, finally we got a meeting in place. I was sitting right here, right where I am. I might even be wearing the same clothes. And I think within 15, 20, 30 minutes conversation, dot 29 minutes conversation we had. And by minute 18, he told me, okay, when can you join? I said, right now. And he said, fine. We're hiring you at this salary for this, and let's catch up in the evening. For it was at 2 p.m. So he said, let's catch up around 9, and I'll explain how the company works. And then I told him that it was a personal best. I got hired in 30 minutes. He said, oh, we keep doing that. We've hired people in 15 minutes also.
And you mentioned that you are the only first person in their legal team. Are you
Yeah.
leading
So
their legal compliance?
that
So
is a big job. I don't know how or why they think that I was good enough for that. But yes, as I said, we're just building.
okay.
We hit the funding, but the rest of the things are catching on. So we're trying to map out a proper structure, how to go about with taxes, with KYCs, with all the boring stuff. So I've just been told that the reason why I am trying to catch up on the employees, I'm trying to get a better understanding of how everybody is working, and I've just been informed that so a lot of employees have been dodging my messages and not been very responsive. I chalked it up, ki, they've been busy, fine. But I've just been informed that it's because they got scared that a lawyer is messaging them and asking them to explain their operation.
They didn't know you have already joined.
Yeah, I mean, I did, but they just felt like, okay, who is this legal person who's asking us to explain what we're doing? But
Nice.
yeah, that's been the
Nice.
sentiment. Such an accountability.
But it's a huge opportunity, and I'm damn sure you will be able to do this. You were mentioning something about Indonesia, some what?
So, a lot of companies around the world, a lot of countries around the world are trying to regularize Web3 and its different aspects. I don't know if I mentioned in the previous podcast, but Marshall Islands, Wisconsin, in the US, they are trying to regulate DAOs. They brought in laws that give legal status to DAOs. And Indonesia had already given a couple of crypto companies legal tender. I don't think they've given them legal tender, but they've given them the legal backing that fine, you can continue functioning. Unlike in India, where first we had received a complete ban on cryptocurrency, then that ban was overturned, and now everything is hanging in grey if it's on this side of the law or that side of the law. So the way we have Bombay Exchange. Bombay Stock Exchange here in India, the way you have a commodities exchange, they are trying to build a proper regularized crypto exchange. So it's going to be the first of its kind, and they are trying to. Of course, the moment you lay down a regulation, you bring faith in people. You bring the people feel more confident trading in crypto. They'll feel more confident being a part of the whole business, and I think it's a huge step forward. Other countries can definitely get inspired by it, but it's still something that is in lines. Like they are bringing it, so it'll take a
So
while to see how it'll be regularized.
so Indonesia government is setting up a crypto exchange, centralized crypto exchange. Uh,
Yes.
if the exchange is centralized by the government, the whole purpose, what do you think is the was the purpose of crypto being decentralized? That stays or that gets lost in somewhere?
You can't have 100% free autonomy, right? You can't say that it's my life, my rules. I will blare music at 100. I will, drive the way I want to. I will drink. I will smoke. You look at yourself, your person. Even though you have full autonomy on yourself, there are certain regulations, certain laws that you have to meet for people around you, for my comfort, for people who are for the comfort of people around you. So in its sense, no matter how having a completely autonomous system, be it an institution, be it in web, be it a person, be it a company, it is not possible. It is not possible to have a 100% deregularized, decentralized institution in any way, because then you will have no accountability. If you say that the problem with DAO, the problem with Web3, at the end of the day, is accountability. On the one hand, we want that we should not have any regulations, we should not have anything that stops us, we should be allowed to do whatever we want. But if you're allowed to do whatever you want, then that means you're not accountable for your actions, even if they're hurting the other person. If somebody is putting in for today, I can what list out, if there's no exchange today, right? I can create a cryptocurrency. If Binance is willing to list my cryptocurrency on its platform, I can list my cryptocurrency on its platform. I can value it at whatever I want to. I can distribute the funds as I want to. I can do whatever I want with it. Now it sounds good, but it can also end up, you might think that right now I'm putting a lot in marketing, you're hearing my tokens names, you invest a lot of money in it, and then one day I just vanish with all your money. So it's hurting you, it's going to hurt people. And if there are no regulations around it, then that means, yes, I cannot be held accountable, it's good for me, but it's bad for you, it's bad for the people around you. So an exchange will not limit freedom. It will an ideal exchange, an ideal regulation will not limit freedom, but it will put certain legal embargoes, I would say. Like today, if you want to list your company on an IPO, you have to get it valuated properly, you have to meet certain SEBI regulations, you have to put in a request, you have to meet certain regulations. We'll just have regulations similar to this. Like if you want to come up with a cryptocurrency, go ahead, but you have to get it evaluated by a government regulator. You have to submit proof of your why are you valuing your company at this amount? Why are you valuing your token at this amount? Who is holding this token? Tomorrow, if there is something wrong, who are we going to go after? I think these are the kind of things that are important for accountability. There has to be a balance. The ideal crypto, the way Web3 is functioning right now, in a complete lack of regulatory sphere, it won't continue that way. There are going to be certain regulations that are going to come in place, and we'll have to just find a balance between the two, because we can't swing either way.
So, can't whatever you are mentioning, we moved a lot. So, the idea of blockchain was to move regulation, government, governance, financial transactions, and all of these to code. Can't everything which you are saying at the moment we moved on to a code based governance structure where it's immutable, or no one can change it once it's coded by law. So the law is the code is the law, or the program is the law. Can't this happen?
Are you trying to say that we should be governed by an algorithm or a code?
I'm not saying. I'm just exploring that is this could be something which could be made possible. Like, let me give you an example. What we did with blockchains is um, the whole decentralization was to a code based structure where once you have written the code is immutable, or you cannot change the code. There is no double spending, or the code maintains the law, especially the DAOs. All the governance in DAOs are coded into the DAO structure, and once that program is live, once the smart contract is live, there cannot be changes to the code unless the majority of the community agrees to that. Currently, this kind of code based governance is quite inefficient in many ways, but I'm just exploring the possibility that can whatever you are saying at the moment, can that be replaced by a more efficient structure of coded governance?
I don't think so. Absolutely not. Code, and especially see the whole point of law is that it's dynamic. You can't look at a thing in its law is any incident in general when you look at it from a legal perspective is more than the sum of its parts. Like you can't just if you put in a code that, or if you encode a line that these acts are either going to be approved or these acts are going to automatically get rejected to a very simple or base. Okay, look at a test, right? If I give you a if I give you a test that has only yes or no questions, I can code that. I can input it in a software, and the software can judge whether or not you've passed or whether your answers are right or wrong, right? But I'll only be able to ask you questions that have a yes or no answer. The moment the questions become subjective, I need a human touch to it, and I need a constant dynamic human touch to it that need not necessarily rely on the majority's opinion.
So, are you
If
saying
you
that so we all know that law is somewhat related to interpretation, and that interpretation is uh, the intelligent part. We haven't developed any general intelligence at the moment, and I'm not sure, but blockchain, that's for blockchain plus AI in that advanced stage is not possible at the moment, and maybe that's the reason you're saying.
I, I, at risk of sounding like one of those scientists who say that AI is going to take over the world, the moment we start getting governed by AI in when it comes to legalities, is the time we will.
There is a very interesting book, Life 3.0. It has been written by an MIT based MIT professor, and it talks about what if a general intelligence takes over the world and scenarios. And so, the current governance structure of DAO, what are your thoughts on that? And let's talk about that.
There's a huge clash of whatever Web3 and DAOs especially stand for: decentralization, governance by the people, and anonymity. These three things clash directly when it comes to uh, legal accountability. If there is decentralization, that means you can't hold one person accountable. That means who are you going to hold accountable? If there is anonymity, who are you going to hold accountable? You're I am dealing with a DAO. Tomorrow the DAO commits a fraud. The DAO funding goes to a wrong organization. Who am I going to hold responsible? Who is going to be responsible for that? Are you going to hold responsible? Even if you have to hold responsible every person involved in the DAO, you need to know their names for starters. You can't persecute an identity, or
NFT,
an
BAYC.
NFT. Yeah. So that is, see, the thing is that right now we are functioning on our demands of working on the blockchain or working in a decentralized system with where governance is distributed amongst everybody, or there is no centralized authority to govern. It is based on a very ideal sense that we are good people and we want to put this to good use. But if you think about it, the reason why there is the regulators, the legislation, the legal people are so wary of it is because it has a huge scope to be misused. The moment you forego checks and balances, the moment you forego accountability, is where, especially in matters of money, in matters of technology, there are a lot of things that can go wrong. Right now you are ensuring that okay, every legitimate company is meeting these tax standards, they are submitting their books, right? And the government can go through where the money is going. Yes, it might not be perfect, there is a lot of corruption there, whatever, that is a part. But on paper, no company can do something illegal, right? No registered company can do something illegal, otherwise they will be punished in simple sense. But when you're talking about DAOs, when you're talking about an institution where you have no legal entity, you don't know who is involved, you don't know who's keeping the books. Nobody's keeping the books. Everything is just going by a click of a button. Everything is just okay. So
Actually,
who do you hold responsible?
the responsibility part is definitely there, but I would say the bookkeeping, that's in fact better if in Web3 compared to Web2, because we can have a triple accounting standard where everything can be updated real time. There's no need for auditors to come at the end of a quarter or end of a year and maintain all the books. Rather, the blockchain has complete transparently stored history of all the transactions which have been made, and that can be tracked in real time. And in fact, this idea was also I got this idea after hearing to Balaji's Srinivasan, and regarding the regulation of a country, he has recently launched a book called The Network State. So I haven't read it completely, so I won't comment on that. But this is a very interesting thing, that how will what's the future of DAO basically? What is the future? If you are saying that whatever we are aspiring for, that complete decentralization, complete ownership, complete control of the community members, if that is not possible, then what are we striving for? And what does that future look like?
Yeah, I think that would make a very interesting read. I'll definitely put that on my reading list as well.
No,
But
that is why I'm saying from your perspective,
okay,
what
from
is
my perspective, what can
DAOs?
we
Huh. Um,
see? Not 100%, but I think in an ideal scenario, of course, having complete ownership and having complete transparency, having a real time update of your books, of not just your books but everything. The whole idea of Web3 is also transparency, right? Having a complete real time update of whatever your DAO is doing, be it monetarily, be it non monetarily. It's going to be, from a regulatory standpoint, an absolute dream come true. No need to keep heavy files, no need to go through books every time. You're easily accessing information whenever you need to. But from a practical sense, then you will need to have equipment and human resources from the regulator side as well. You are trying okay, you're trying to explain that, see, you can access all this information in real time, all these finances, but the person who you have to give this information to is somebody who probably never even learned how to fax, who probably still doesn't know how to operate WhatsApp. So they need to come up, they need to update themselves. The regulators need to come, come up with a workforce, have a workforce that can indulge in, that can take care of the tech aspect especially. And from where I stand, if I can claim that okay, my DAO is going to update its books in real time, I am pretty sure that tech will be advanced enough that I will also have a tech person who can encode hidden, what do you say, financial transactions in between the line of the code, that
Hey,
they're not
that can
purposely.
be done in today's lagging
Absolutely,
scenario as well.
that is precisely what I'm saying. That is precisely what I'm saying. That is why you have competent CAs on both the sides. That is why your
I'm
CA
not
from
saying
this side is
you.
also.
I'm not saying you remove them from job. I'm saying that their workload. Suppose instead of going through 1,000 page document at the end of a quarter, they can just go 1 or 2 pages every day. Just look
No,
at
that
it,
is
and
precisely. I completely agree with you. But for that, number one thing you need is somebody,
yeah, that is a great point.
updated on that side as well. Whoever is building this, open book for the DAO, you need an equally competent person on the other side to regulate it as well. That is one thing. Having a workforce, having a competent enough workforce to be able to deal in these matters from the regulatory perspective as well. SCUB, whatever funding that requires, whatever kind of training that requires, whatever kind of skill set that requires, that apart, what we are striving for cannot be 100% decentralization, de-governance, and complete ownership. We can strive for maybe 80, maybe 90% and find a balance between this and this. That is the most we can strive for if we want to live as a part of a society. Having in
I
an
want to
ideal sense.
actually stay on the point that you mentioned, which is a great point, great point, that there is a huge learning curve for the workforce uh, as a whole, as well as there needs to be two things, two very demanding things from the government. One, their acceptance of the things, that these are the changes which are being made, their acceptance, and they should be completely on board. And second, there is a huge learning curve for them as well, as the leaders of democracy. So
No, of course, they need to accept that this is inevitable.
yeah,
People ask me, is Web3 all a hype? Is cryptocurrency going to tank tomorrow? Is it all just going to, vanish day after? And it might, very honestly, it might go down. It might go down very bad, but it is inevitable. If not tomorrow, then in 6 months. If not in 6 months, then in 60 years. So this is the future. And it needs to be accepted, and the sooner it is accepted, the better it is. But that's exactly how you said it. The people, the regulators, the government, the ones on the other side, the understanding workforce, are people who are still stuck at a mentality of 30 years ago, right? Even if they accept this, the kind of workforce you need to regulate it, what courses do you have today that can teach you web chain, web 3 laws? Where
this
is the
podcast.
resources to even develop this kind of yeah. No, that is a good resource. I think the government should publicize it, make it. Will contact Kejriwal to add it in his
Definitely,
official curriculum.
definitely.
But my point being that there is a huge. I mean, there are no. There, even if somebody wants to get trained in it, even if the government wants to have a workforce, it's going to be difficult to train people in this specialty to understand. And not everybody is going to understand it. Just as nobody, not everybody can understand the workings of a smartphone. This is something that is 10 times as complex as a smartphone. No matter how easy we try to make it, no matter how easy we try to explain it, it is going to be difficult for people to understand, for people to gain expertise there. And it is going to be difficult to build a workforce that can tomorrow regulate this whole space. That is the primary, I think that is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing as well. Even if the government does say yes, we are accepting DAOs, submitting open, we are accepting DAOs, we are open to this real time updates in their books, we are open to all the system. Who is this? They are using old apna Windows XP system with huge monitors sitting on
They have
keyboards
just
that
now
get.
gotten accustomed to internet, and we are saying
Yeah, I
internet has
mean, there
changed.
are
Internet
people.
is now changed it to Web3. There is a better internet.
You are talking to a country where, let's stay India specific, but there are places in the country where still there is no 24 hours electricity. There are
In
no
Bangalore, there is
phones.
not 24-hour electricity, which is
I
kind of
mean,
a Silicon Valley.
that is because of grid issues. That is fine, but how can you expect that this country's regulators is going to have a workforce so sophisticated, who is going to be able to understand all this so well, and implement it so quickly? So of course,
No, definitely. I think
that
India
gap.
is quite advanced at this stage in terms of digital era. But there are definitely things that need to be in place. Like right now we are talking about electricity. Yesterday I was talking to people from, whenever I talk to people from some other US or first world countries, uh, there has been scenarios where there is a power outage for a couple of minutes, and it's so embarrassing. Oh, and they highlight the fact that this is a third world country, so that's really embarrassing. And we say that we are leading the digital global revolution. So yeah, definitely there are good things which we are doing, and there are things that need to be improved.
What I feel like the biggest thing that India can do right now is actually invite foreign players in the, yeah, maybe make the market more accessible for them, and encourage human development. Have Web3 companies, if not fully operating, if we are afraid of funding issues, if we are afraid of regulatory issues, then encourage them to open service entities in India, encourage them to open small time, encourage them to hire people from India in less technical roles, which
Who
is,
the foreign people, foreign companies?
yeah, Web3
Okay.
companies in general, like foreign companies in general, so that it leads to human development. Right? They don't have the resources. No Indian institution has a resource to, no Indian institution has a course or has any kind of educational material that supports Web3. Be it I cannot say for tech maybe, but I don't think that your engineering courses even are sophisticated enough or focus on Web3 or blockchain development. Or
There
even if they are,
There are a couple of basic courses. I want to highlight that there are a couple of basic courses which have come up in terms of blockchain, but what you are saying is absolutely correct. That there is no advanced courses, and even if there are courses, they are not updated since Web3 is moving at such a fast pace, and including Web3 in curriculum is really difficult. Yeah, that's a great
yeah,
point.
so precisely I feel like if the West is a little ahead of us in there, even the courses that you have in India are inaccessible for the majority of the people, beyond their understanding, beyond their everything. So I feel like even my last podcast I had mentioned, most of international companies budget for human development, they budget for equipment, they budget for personal development and professional development. They are willing to pay for you to develop your skills, and we can encourage them to hire in India, especially for the non-technical roles, for whatever they can. They're going to get a cheaper workforce, and we are going to get huge human development. That is even if we are afraid of Web3, even if Nirmala Sitharaman thinks that crypto should be banned, or RBI thinks crypto should be banned, this is something they can do today. They can. Modi is, he's been trying to advertise Make in India. He was up to khair, I haven't heard a lot, but he was trying to advertise Make in India. This is something, an initiative that the government can come up with, advertising remote working, that you hire our workforce, you hire our people, we'll give you tax benefits if you hire from our if you hire Indians, we will not ask you to submit TDS, or we'll not ask you for this, we'll not ask you for that. Provide lax regulations there, no harm done. Nobody is going to get hurt. Just if a person is employed at an MNC and working remotely, they are willing to fund your development, they are willing to provide you equipment, they are willing to provide you with so much information, and then you have good human development that way. That is something that definitely can be done, even in a even without any regulation, even if you're afraid of Web3 in general.
In fact, we can. That's very interesting. In fact, our neighbor China, they have implemented a similar strategy. They are the manufacturing king of the world. So what they did, and whenever someone needed money to build something, some country, they just said, "Take my money, but also take my people. Also
Yeah.
take them. They will be the only ones who will be building the ports." And since we are like the technical laborers or technical, we have the best technical know-hows in the global ecosystem. At least that's I'm damn sure about. So why not, whenever we are going implementing or working for these kind of global companies, why can't India leverage the similar strategy in a non-hostile but more genuine or transparent manner? Let's say you want to work for a foreign company, or foreign company wants to establish Web3, provide them good taxation and ask them to hire X percentage of Indian employees in all the domains, not just the data analyst wing is over here and all the client facing thing is
Yeah.
happening in the US. That's a great point, in fact. Nice.
No, that's definitely, that is something that can be done. You
In
have
fact,
such unemployment in the country, and this is going to benefit huge. No,
definitely. So, in fact, I want to hear more about this. How do you think India can leverage the current blockchain or Web3 revolution which is coming up? And there will be soon a next bull market. How can India wanted to become a digital $5 trillion economy? Can it not leverage blockchain to accelerate the whole country's growth? And if we are talking about regulation, how can India do that? What's your view?
um, see, I might be wrong here. I am, but
No
I
worries.
would say
It's
that
hypothesis.
in terms of blockchains, in terms of utilizing blockchain for acceleration, I feel that precisely we come back to the same point of a lack of human resource to work in blockchain. Even if you want to, Modi wants to use blockchain to take India to greater heights, or the entire government wants to do that. But you need people with a deep understanding of the blockchain, how it needs to be utilized, how it should be worked up, and you need that. Right now, nobody in the government probably understands what the blockchain is, what Web3
No,
is, what Web3
that's not
stands
at
for.
all the case. In fact, I've worked with the government and I can definitely say this, that Indian government knows a lot of things. What we think that government knows is just like a tip of the iceberg. They have core domain expertise, they have collaboration with industry experts in private, public, whatever sector you want to, and they have access to global resources. And that's one of the key reasons why India was able to develop UPI, such kind of an advanced payment system which no other country has ever thought of. So there is definitely potential. So
Of
um,
course.
but so the workforce is there. There is a small group, definitely. There is a small group, and which is not adequate for 136 crore Indians. But um, let's suppose we have the workforce, then what needs to be done from the legal perspective?
From a legal perspective, the first thing you need is some kind of regularization, some type of uh, your IT laws right now are, I mean, our IT laws right now are barely updated to meet today's
2000.
today's 10 years ago's technology. Technically, our IPC is also from 1879. So the name of the act stays with the
Ah,
year that it was first formulated. So that there have been updates made to the act. I wouldn't say that there have been good updates made to the act, in fact. But we don't have,
what was
we
that
still
virus
don't have.
update which you were saying?
It's not a virus update. It's
No,
a
no.
from the
You
version
mentioned
app.
you mentioned
Yeah,
that.
there is a section that says if you send a file to my device, my computer, that makes my device inoperable or it's a virus, then you can be, punished for a jail term of 5 years or something like that. I might be quoting the years wrong, but yeah, I mean, in today's day and age, having that kind of a language of virus and sending virus or sending corrupt files, and on the other hand you have no law that talks about, if I use your image, uh, and you if I misuse your images, if I misuse your data, there's no data protection law, there's no data protection act, there are no regulations governing use of information. Now we can use blockchain to take India to greater heights, but there's going to be a lot of data on the blockchain that becomes publicly accessible. If there's no legislation to regulate its use, how there is credible data that suggests that India's political parties have spent considerable amount in Facebook ads, social media ads, and they have collected user data to target them with specific ads to get more votes. So your data if you downloaded Arogya Setu, you are giving Arogya Setu permission to collect your data, you are inputting certain things. You fill a form today, it collects your in physical, to go you go to school, you fill a form, it collects your caste, it collects whether or not you're a politically exposed person, your income and everything. Now if all that ठीक है फॉर्म में पड़ा हुआ, it is probably going to get lost, but once the data is immortalized on the blockchain, who is going to be responsible for collecting the data, which entity is going to take care of it, how can it be utilized. There are a lot of dangers that can come into it. If you've seen Captain America the Winter Soldier, base of that movie was how they are going to target people, and based on their information, they have algorithms that would predict that this person can become anti governance or whatever, and then shoot them dead. So yes, that is too far fetched, but that is the potential that your data has. And when it comes to blockchain, when it comes to Web3, with deregulation, with decentralization, you also have data that is publicly available because of transparency. So the first thing that you need to do is have data protection, not just data protection, but
Private
data laws in
blockchains.
general. Data laws in general. You need to have data laws in general. What kind of data should remain in the public sphere? What kind of data, if private entities are collecting? I don't know if it's technically true or not, but data on the blockchain is not editable. Once it's out on the blockchain, it's out on the blockchain, is what I've heard.
Yeah, that's
So
true. Ideal
that
scenarios,
means,
that's true.
yeah, that means that tomorrow, if I decide that I don't want to be on the blockchain anymore, I want my data to, you know, be just to me, I cannot remove it.
You cannot
Isn't that a
remove it,
violation?
but there is, yeah, that's true. Anytime you have hosted something decentralized in a decentralized thing, that data has been shared to multiple nodes instead of one single server. So you have to delete from all those nodes, which is practically
Yeah,
not possible. But
exactly.
there is very cringed about term in blockchain, core blockchain ecosystem, about private blockchains. That's there, and that can be something which could be a solution to what you're mentioning at the moment. But yeah.
No, that is what I mean. That the first thing that for us to use anything, the first thing you need to have are guidelines on how it is going to be used. Right. So yes, even Fire has signed a couple of MOUs with the Goa police to help transparency in police system. The blockchain is going to be amazing, especially imagine you can look up all your complaints, all your local police stations complaints, and all their data out on the blockchain. But that's the thing, you need guidelines that regulate that data. Today you've been accused of a crime, your data goes in the blockchain, you are associated, okay, Roshan Sharma, the thief of Bangalore, but tomorrow you are tomorrow you're acquitted. How long is your data going to stay? Your name cannot forever be associated with the thief tag now, right? So that is where the problem lies. Who is going to control that data? Till what we don't have data laws in general, but we have data laws that sort of get attached with other laws. So I don't know if that's clear. But so Mastercard was banned for a while in India, if you remember. I think they've just recently allowed it back. Mastercard was not allowed to issue new cards because
Amex
they were
also.
taking. Sorry.
Amex also.
Yes, Amex is still banned. Amex has been banned for a different reason. But the reason why Mastercard was banned was because the data that they were collecting, they were sending it offshores for processing or something, and they were storing it offshore. So the government said that we want Indian data to be stored in India only. because the moment data goes out of a jurisdiction, now you are governed by another jurisdiction's data laws, right? So this is where the whole thing also comes into place when it comes to blockchain, when it comes to
There is
other
actually
things.
there is actually a very interesting use case or kind of new thing which is coming up. Like there is a potential to host data in a restricted jurisdiction with the help of nodes. So only allowing the nodes which are inside a particular jurisdiction to be operational. So that's kind of a thing which is coming up, but again, that's very new, and I'm not sure about that either. So
No, I'm pretty sure that whatever legislative hindrances I'm talking about, there would be tech people who will be looking for solutions for it. Tech moves faster than law. It's tech and law. It's tech and law. I mean, not law in general. Law is very
tech comes,
yeah, yeah.
people
So
create bubbles, burst them, and then the lawyers come. Okay, you did wrong, and now let's
yeah,
time to need
right.
some.
So of course that is the thing that they need to catch up. That is the only there. Then the moment they catch up, you have a regulation, you have the technology to meet that. Things are going to happen.
Few days back, I was talking to the chairman of Swedish Blockchain Council, and
Oh, that's great. Yes, they have implemented. They are using blockchain for their public transport or public data system. Something they have started using it. Sweden has.
I didn't get a chance to discuss this, but it was more on the global regulations, less on the Swedish regulation. But there are what you are saying was a common thing which I heard from him as well. So we as technical or product people, we have a very different view of blockchain, very idealistic view of blockchain, while you have a more restrictive view of how things are going to pan out. And uh, to for mass adoption, for the good of everyone, there needs to be an agreement between these two parties along with the government. But yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would not even blame legislations at this time or regulators at this time because for you, it is simpler to write code and come up with a new product than it is for me to sit down and come up with every possible misuse of that thing, codify it, and codify it in a language that encompasses everything and is acceptable, is understandable, is implementable, and then release it.
Yeah, makes sense. It's always so whenever we are developing an MVP, which is kind of a minimum viable product. So that product needs to just work once. In one scenario, if it works, I'm going to ship it out, and I won't care about whether it fails when 100 customers arrive. But the day I need to scale it up, so for shipping MVP, I just need one scenario to be correct. For shipping product, which is an actual thing, I need not even all the scenarios to be working perfectly, and even if one scenario fails, I cannot ship it. And for you, the repercussions of shipping a product or shipping a law which has not completely been thought through is huge. People can misuse and find loopholes in n number of ways possible.
Exactly, of course. But that's the thing, nobody has 30 years of experience in the blockchain. So who would you even call an expert?
Why do you love DAOs so much?
I think I've already mentioned it in this podcast, but the whole idea of coming up with something that I mean, it's almost like okay. I have the perfect analogy. Imagine you're a biologist, right? You're a very known or a very well-read biologist. You know every species in the world, and then there is a new species that is discovered, something that doesn't fit in a tree, something that is not an animal, it's not a plant, it's not living, it's not dead, it's completely new. So for me, from a regulatory perspective, from a legal perspective, that is what a DAO is. It's a ghost. It's as good as finding a ghost, where no law applies on it, no possible law can apply on it in the way it wants to exist. The n number of possibilities that it puts out on. There's just a lot to. I don't have a solution. It's all problems because trust me, you'll ask me that okay, Subha, you've listed that this is not applicable, this is not applicable. Then what is it? I will say I don't know the answer, but it's just so I'm just waiting for the answer. How are we going to get to an answer? Is it going to somewhere or the other? Yes, I do. I know the reality is going to be the DAOs are going to evolve into something which resembles a more conventional company or a more conventional form of enterprise because it will have to. At the end of the day, once it comes under regulations, in a little sense it will have to, and at the same time law will also have to evolve a lot to be able to take it under its wing. So that is why I get very excited whenever it comes to DAOs that oh my god, what's going to happen next.
Let me give you a scenario. uh, can a DAO, can an international global DAO take over some country's government?
Some countries,
Government, central government.
governance.
The
Mm,
entire country's government can that be replaced by a DAO?
see, in the kind of democracy we have today is that we elect
Forget
people,
about India.
people
Forget
elect.
about any particular democracy or dictatorship. Any country government which you can think.
Not maybe an entire country, but yes, I will. That's what I'm trying to say. In India, we have the kind of democracy where you are electing representatives and they're making decisions, right? In Switzerland, you have villages that get involved. I mean, villages, yeah, they have those constituencies that govern themselves. So each and every person is involved in decision making, which is essentially sort of like, every person being involved in governance. So for smaller areas, for these kind of decisions, DAOs can definitely not take over in that sense, as in the complete functioning, complete. There are a lot of things when it comes under governing a country: legalities, economics, police, this, that. So maybe not 100%, but to an extent. Uh, a certain way, yes. DAOs can enable the people of that particular country. The thing about countries, usually countries are too big. You can't expect a million people to come together and govern themselves. But if you're talking about smaller constituencies, DAOs can definitely make it easier for them to govern themselves, and it can definitely for maybe smaller areas at a smaller unit of governance, like you have RWAs, you have municipal corporations, you have panchayats. At that level, DAOs can definitely function, and they can be very effective when it comes to governance.
Actually, I'm looking to some answers myself because there are a lot of interesting things, like you mentioned right now about panchayats or kind of a smaller constituencies being governed by DAO. Now, let's say there is one small one DAO which has multiple other governance structures. There is a smaller group of people who are a part of certain particular village. They have an Aadhaar or national ID. Calling it a national ID is not, but overall on the top level
For
there
that
is,
constituency, they have an ID.
for that constituency they have some other ID. For the entire DAO they have other ID, and there are thousands of such constituencies being governed in their own governance structure. There is voting, there is something. So what I'm coming to is, India is a democracy, right? And what we are trying to achieve with DAOs is absolute democracy. Now, can that structure, can the India also has panchayats, so panchayats can be one chotu DAO, a smaller DAO, and there is a district which is kind of a larger DAO encompassing some other smaller DAOs. And on a similar level, each one of them elects a representative on their DAOs, initial DAOs, and those representatives form such a chain that is a pyramid structure of constituencies or DAOs, which all comes under a central DAO. Can't that function as a government itself?
I mean,
Everyone has different.
you are describing how the government today is functioning. I
Yeah,
replaced DAO with an organization in general. So that is what happens. You are electing, there is a small group at a very low level,
exactly
they
same.
elect a representative, then they elect a larger representative, and you have a hierarchy. So in that essence, I feel like in that way, DAOs will evolve into the system we have today then, because you will have individuals in power. You will have to have some individual that has accountability. You know, like you can't have a DAO that is elected. For example, you have one person, X person is responsible for this, has been elected by this constituency, right? You can't have a group of people or a DAO elected from a constituency, because tomorrow, if you have to hold them responsible for something, what do you do? Go after those 10 individuals then? You get what I'm trying to say?
You're saying कि the only change which this will make is everything will be noted on blockchain, but the entire structure
Yes,
will still
yes,
be.
it'll be the same. It'll be the same. It'll be the same.
But there definitely can be benefits, and many benefits to having a blockchain based government, especially on the corruption side of thing. But definitely there are absolute powers which you are giving to people, and sometimes those powers may not be even be able to trace back.
See, it's not just that. The thing about being governed by the blockchain. So if you know that today you don't have to have any kind of educational, professional, any kind of background to be the prime minister of the country. That is because we want to keep it accessible to everybody, right? The moment you attribute a technical, an understanding, some kind of a, if you're talking about a sense where every Indian is sophisticated enough and has the hardware and software to be a part of a DAO.
No, actually not. So I'm saying with these evolutions, no one needs to know what goes behind. Even a farmer can access the bank, right? But they don't know how the banks work. We all access banks, we all access Facebook. We don't know how the algorithms work. We don't know. We just know this is a simple button which I need to click in order for certain actions to happen. And I trust that particular platform that whenever I click that, the specified action will happen. And with blockchain, what is happening is you don't need to understand the underlying structure, but you get a guarantee that whenever you click this particular button, a specific action happens and not something else, and that is verifiable.
Imagine the level of corruption that can take place. अभी सिर्फ EVM में हो रहा है that you press a button or something else, but vote is getting recorded to
That's what
some
I'm
other
saying.
party.
That's what I'm saying. With the blockchain transparency, you can definitely always see that which wallet or which address or which individual voted or performed a certain action, and they can verify if they did or they did not perform that particular action and can report that.
But if you come up with that level of transparency, that means every time I vote for something, my vote is public. That violates my right to a confidential vote.
I'm always getting a second case where there are ways to avoid that, but I'm damn sure there is a lot more complexity than what I'm saying. Like ZK rollups are there to hide these kind of scenarios, that who voted for this, and
Then who will? That is the point. If you are hiding it, then there is no way to verify it. If there is a way to verify it or make it public, either you give access to one person or a couple of people to verify it, then there is a potential for corruption. If you make it public, then that violates my right to a confidential vote.
So actually ZK
You
is
see the
no, zero knowledge is kind of a very interesting topic. What it says is, I'm giving an analogy that suppose you want to identify whether there is a cave which is circular in shape. Okay, there is only one door through which you can access, and there is a gatekeeper over there. Now you want to make sure that the person who make sure that Subha, do you have the key? I'm asking that question. Okay. Now, for you to make sure that you have the key, you don't need to show me that you have the key. You don't need to show me that you have opened the gate. But imagine a cave where it's you have to go around, and on the other end of that cave there is a door which is locked, and only if you have the key then you can come from the other side, and the gatekeeper can see that you came from the other side. So now you have to just go without showing me any key, without showing me anything, any proof that you have that ID or even what you have. You just come from the other side. And now I'm sure that you have a key. I am without you showing me the key, without you showing me the proof, I don't have any knowledge of how you did it, but I can definitely verify that you have the key. So it is a very interesting concept to hide things and ask only the relevant questions. Hope I'm
no,
making
but
sense.
you are, but how are you going to think about just a voting system? Suppose a voting system is happening on the blockchain, right? And tomorrow there are allegations of voting fraud. So what happens now? Who can see?
What kind of voting fraud?
Why that I clicked the button that was supposed to vote for party A, but party B has won. Party A is alleging that there was some technical they have coded the software in such a way that even if you press A, vote goes to B. That is how B has won. So in this scenario, who or how is it being verified? I'll tell you in real life how they verify EVM machines is they just say that there were these many people who were sitting there. They checked, the machines are working fine. So we will say that nothing happened. A का button A को ही जा रहा है, B का button B को ही जा रहा है. This is how it is. But I am 100% sure voter fraud does take place. At a pretty large scale, it does take place. So now when everything is on the blockchain, you're talking about it being a better system of transparency. How is it going to function there?
This is a very interesting question which you have asked. I can think of other avenues where this can be applied. I'm just trying to figure out how this can be applied to a voting scenario. So one thing, I might be very, very 100% wrong over here, but my hypothesis is there can be a situation. I'll give you one example and then I will come back to this question. So with again, with zero knowledge identity proofs, what is happening is, suppose you go to a club and you want to make sure that you are above 21. The club has a rule that you should be above 21 to enter. Now, what happens in a current scenario? You have to show your ID card. You have to state that, okay, this is a government verified, government given ID card, and see here it writes that my date of birth is this, and if you calculate that, and that way I'm over 21. Now in zero knowledge, what can happen is The club gatekeeper or bouncer will ask the question, are you above 21? And with zero knowledge, you can provide a proof that you are, without showing what is your
Your
date
date
of
of
birth,
birth.
what is your or showing that any kind of other things. You can just answer that proof in a cryptographic way. So what I'm thinking, if there is a voting fraud which happens, they there is a, but that will hinder. So I'm saying they can verify that, okay, they can ask everyone whom did you vote, but then it will hinder the confidentiality agreement of the voter itself. So that's where I'm getting stuck every time. But I will definitely come up with a solution or answer to this, and uh,
Sure.
get back.
Even the example that you have given, zero knowledge is very good when you have to have, when you have to have a specification. Like, for example, if it is a simple yes or no question,
Then it's good.
in a situation where a yes or no is suffice, you can do that. But the moment you need to have more knowledge, like if a club is only permitting entry to people who have whose names are probably beginning from letters A, or whose names have the following letters A, S, F, G, and every day or every hour those letters are changed. In that scenario, you will have to show your name to prove that
No,
you
you every time you will have to sign a transaction and not have to show the proof. And
So in that situation also, you just have a yes or no answer, right? Yes, either I meet this criteria, or no, I don't meet this criteria. But in the voter situation, or when it comes to governance, you don't have a simple yes. If the question was, did you vote or did you not vote? In that scenario, you would have been able to easily tell via zero knowledge without violating anything that yes, either this person voted or this
got
person did not vote.
got the answer.
But to whom?
Got the
that is
answer.
when the that is when the question arises, because this is still a very simple scenario. When you talk about governance, that things are going to be even more complex.
I'm damn
So
sure there will be definitely multiple things which will come up, and zero knowledge, soulbound tokens, all these kind of concepts are really new, and they came into existence because there was a need. To answer your question, which I think I have found one hypothesis which may be again 90% wrong, 99% wrong, but what you can do is there's something called soulbound tokens, or basically non-immutable NFTs, which which is like a certificate issued on blockchain that can never change, justifying that, okay, that certificate can be anything. You can just say that, okay, this certificate verifies that you have particular ownership, be it a certificate of your graduation or anything. It can never change. Now, instead of asking did you vote or not, you can ask another question. Did you, when the question could be, did you want to vote for X? And the zero knowledge can answer whether you actually answered the right X. When you voted for X, did X increased, the number of votes of X increased by 1, or did the number of votes of Y increased by 1? And that answer can be stored as a proof in a non-immutable way, showing that, okay, you actually, what you wanted to answer or what you wanted to vote was the actual vote which was given. But I know I'm not making sense, but
but when you are fine, you
very
will have to
complicated.
express that I wanted to vote for this particular
No, no,
entity or
no,
this particular
no.
option.
So you just say that I wanted to vote for X or Y. You don't show me. You just sign a transaction saying that you wanted to vote for X or Y whenever you are going to give a vote. At that time, this is also recorded that whether when you voted, the vote number of counts of vote of X increased by 1 or Y increased by 1, without you stating overall that, okay, that after this vote X increased by 1, after this vote Y increased by 1. That is not being stored, but only that when X voted, person 1 voted for X, then X increased by 1. I think I will come back to this again. But anyway, this, there are a lot of things which needs to be done, and I'm definitely not an expert. But I will definitely ask this question to some cryptographic expert. Which
Definitely. I think some things like, law, legislation, governance, you need a human touch to it. You will have to keep them human.
that makes sense, and that's a really, yeah, the most advanced machine, not replaceable at the moment.
Yeah.
Nice. It's really fun talking to you. Anything which you want to end with? Any?
I can talk an hour long with you. I think we should have a full stop. We should have a buzzer like KBC
Yeah,
has.
that's why any last views which you have, because now I'm hungry.
To be continued. Part three.
Yes, actually, to be continued. Let's have after um, 2 to 3 months again, and see
Definitely.
how you have evolved fire chain, and made it
Hopefully,
better.
it would be towards a good thing. Keep educating yourself. I think that is the biggest thing. Even if it is a small video, even if it is something wrong, like whatever we said, even if half the things were factually incorrect, if they gave you
Go
something to
verify
think
it.
about, then yeah, think about it and come up with new things. Contradict people, speak up. Don't work 18 hours a day.
Thank you so much if you watched till now. Hope you liked it. Hope you learned something new. And if you did, subscribe would mean a lot to me. Thanks Subha again for coming on the show. Hope to see you again on the channel. And do keep watching some of the other interesting videos which I have made listed here. And see you next time. Thank you.